Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
What happened next?
I said, sure.
Okay.
And I went up with him, and we went to the window. We walked around the balcony this time, and we went up the stairs, and we went to the window. And he looks at me, and he says, before you do anything, go like this with your shirt to make sure that you don't get the breath marks on the window.
Around 3 a.m. on April 25th, 2020, Zachariah Anderson enlisted the help of his 11-year-old daughter to surveil his ex-partner, Sadie Beachman, and her new boyfriend, Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. According to his daughter's testimony, after observing her mother and Rosalio through the window, they returned to Zachariah's car. There, he parked and removed his shoes before proceeding to Rosalio's truck, where he snapped a photo of his license plate and stole his car registration. The registration displayed Rosalio's address. Sadie Beacham and Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. had entered into a romantic relationship in February 2020 after connecting on a dating app. This marks Sadie's first foray into the dating world following the end of her previous relationship with Zachariah, the father of her 3 children. Over time, Sadie and Rosalio developed a close bond. They frequently conversed and spent time together at each other's homes. Sadie even had the opportunity to meet Rosalio's 2 children on May 16, 2020. That's something that prosecutors would later say enraged Zachariah, intensifying his jealousy and obsession towards Sadie. On May 19th, Sadie became increasingly concerned. Rosalio failed to respond to her calls or text messages. She drove to the Wood Creek Apartments in Kenosha, Wisconsin, to check on him. There, she found the screen door closed, but the sliding glass door wide open. As she called out for Rosalio and peered into the apartment, she discovered numerous pools of blood and spatter scattered throughout. Sadie immediately called the police. Upon arrival, officers found what looked like a murder scene, but no Rosalio. Later in court, prosecutors would tell a jury that Sadie's ex-boyfriend, Zachariah, had killed Rosalio and disposed of his body in a well-thought-out and planned attack. But Zachariah would maintain his innocence, and Rosalio's body, as of this recording, would remain missing. This is Matt Stroud in for Jillian Jalali, who's on maternity leave. And in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 239. Zachariah Anderson was taken into custody just one day after police were called to the apartment of Rosalio Gutierrez. He was initially charged with 2 felony counts of stalking. Then later, in December 2020, the charges of homicide and hiding a corpse were added. Zachariah's second trial began on February 28, 2023, after a mistrial was declared nearly a year prior due to issues with a witness's statements violating case law. Throughout the trial, jurors heard from the state and witnesses that Zachariah was a jealous ex who was harassing and stalking his ex-partner, Sadie Beacham, and her new boyfriend, Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. Sadie and Zachariah first met in 2007. They had 3 children together, their daughter, born in 2008, and their twin boys in 2015. They had an on-again, off-again relationship. Sadie stated that it was a relationship on its way out, and she officially ended things with Zachariah in December of 2019. Their tumultuous relationship and his coming and going as he pleased ultimately ended it for good. According to Sadie, she didn't speak to Zachariah again until February 2020. He had reached out to her, and she agreed to have a conversation with him, but only on her driveway. She once again told him that she was done with their relationship and that she wanted to come to an arrangement for him to see their 3 children. Soon after that meeting, Sadie decided to give dating another try. On February 13th, she connected with Rosalio for the first time. As February drew to a close, their bond flourished, marked by frequent conversations, mutual visits, shared meals, and occasional overnights at each other's homes. Sadie was set to take a vacation to Mexico the first week of March 2020. She asked her best friend, Rebecca, to watch her children while she was away. Sadie's understanding was that Zachariah was going to be out of town in South Dakota during this time. While on vacation, Sadie got a phone call in the middle of the night. On the other line was a frantic Rebecca telling her that Zachariah was in Sadie's house where Rebecca was staying with the children and she didn't know what to do.
I had fallen asleep in the living room on the couch, and when I had woke up, the lights were off. I think the TV was in sleep mode, and I saw a dark figure at the end of the couch. Like I said, I don't know if I moved or made a sound, but the lights went on, and the defendant was standing at the end of the couch just smiling at me and said, "Hey there." And I didn't really even know what to say. And so then he said, "Where the fuck are my kids and their whore mother?" Then he went upstairs and woke up the kids.
And do you recall roughly what time of morning this was?
It was about 3:45 in the morning.
After the defendant went upstairs to wake up the children, what do you recall happening next?
He came back down with the kids and stood there and started asking me. He actually had told me that he was surprised I was there because he thought I would be down in Mexico whoring with her when he saw my Jeep in the driveway. And then he asked me again who she was with, and I told him the people who he also knows. And he told me not to lie and that he knows she's fucking somebody whose name starts with an L.
Now, at this point, given your friendship with Miss Beecham, are you aware of anyone in her life at that point whose name or nickname started with an L?
Yeah.
And who is that?
Rosalio.
Sadie and Rosalio continued seeing each other. On March 10th, Sadie texted him, "Have I told you that when I kissed you, you're the one for me? Babe, I feel like we have happily ever after potential." Sadie initially kept her new relationship from her children, but at some point, her 11-year-old daughter went through her phone and saw a text message from someone named Leo. Soon after, Zachariah texted Sadie saying, "You're getting your hair pulled by your new boo?" He had also texted Leo's full name, and Sadie had never given him that information.
He would constantly text me, call me, send me, emails, these kind of woe is me emails, and just try in every direction to try to get back with me, or just try to, like almost in a harassing way, like just constantly emailing me all hours of the night, texting all hours, bringing me flowers.
Zachariah continued to harass her. She said it was constant and overwhelming. It terrified her. It was later learned that Zachariah had his friend, Stephen, who lived near Sadie, watch her house. Zachariah would text Stephen asking if there were any cars in the driveway. Zachariah sometimes had 2 different phones he would text Sadie from. He continued to try and get back together with her, seemingly not willing to let the relationship go. Some of their recorded phone calls were played in court.
I fit somebody else in there. That's what I know. Don't have a fucking girlfriend. And a whole lot of fuck you for all your accusations. Because it hurts me to know that it's not available. But you get all the space and all the freedom. And I'm sorry I had to go fucking look. I really am, but it was fucking killing me, Sadie.
I'm trying to figure out how I really feel about things. And then you do stuff. And I'm like, that's not love. That's not caring.
No, it's jealousy. It's the ugly version. It's jealousy. It's the sickening feeling of that ugly fucking evil. And I'm sorry it fucking...
Huh? It's feeling forever because it's you or everything. You're always going to be like that. You're always going to have that. And then
no.
Whether or not there would be something to it or not, or
no, I don't.
It always came back to me.
By mid-April, Sadie was trying to see Rosalio at least once a week, sometimes staying the night. One evening, when she was sitting on his couch deciding what to watch on TV, she asked him, "Is this okay for right now, or is there something you want to watch right now?" Directly after, she received a text from Zachariah saying verbatim what Rosalio had just said. On the witness stand, Sadie said, "I was pretty freaked out. He said exactly what Rosalio just said to me, and I assumed he could only hear that if he was there and followed me." She said she responded by saying, "WTF are you talking about? Please stop following me." On May 16th, Sadie met Rosalio's 2 children. He was in the kitchen cooking dinner, and Sadie hung out with the kids in the living room. They then went to Dairy Queen after dinner, came home, watched a movie, and painted some rocks. Sadie went home feeling hopeful about their relationship. That same night, Zachariah texted her and said, "You race down to Kenosha every chance you get to lay with some Down syndrome Mexican version of your father just to pull a noseful and laugh at anything he says as you desperately throw yourself at him, and in that you have your happiness." After May 16th, the day that Sadie had met Rosalio's children, she never heard from or saw Rosalio again. Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. was 40 at the time of his disappearance. He was the only child of Celia Teresa Patterson. As Celia sat on the witness stand, she asked the judge if she could refer to Rosalio as Pocho, a name she had always called him. She told the jury that she and Pocho were very close. He was her life. She recalled just how close they were as tears came to her eyes. The defense objected as she spoke. Judge Bruce Schroeder told the court that, quote, "Ordinarily, this type of evidence is excluded, evidence which is likely to create special sympathy, saying further that the closeness of a mother to a child or any other relationship is not something we consider. Every life is viewed exactly the same in court." Celia continued describing Pocho as a definite mama's boy, and she said he had no qualms about it. She last saw her son in February of 2020. She lives in Albert, Colorado, but traveled to Kenosha often. On May 16th, 2020, she texted with him, and those were the last conversations they had.
Mrs. Patterson, what in May of 2020 was most important to Pocho?
His children, his communication. So, we had lengthy conversations, so we kept a very close contact with one another. Text, phone calls, video chats. He would always keep in communication with me. He would always respond to my phone calls. And if he couldn't, he'd say, "Can't talk now, Mom. I'll call later." He would text me.
The trial began on the last day of February 2023. During opening statements, prosecutor Michael Gravely encouraged the jury to take the time that the evidence demands. He roadmapped the events for them, the events that had ultimately led to Rosalio being dead to everyone that knows him, since he had not been seen or heard from for the past 3 years. He described Zachariah's overwhelming jealousy and the need for control, something that made him grow more and more irrational, so much so that he took his children with him to spy on their mother and Rosalio. He told the jury that he broke into Rosalio's truck and ding-dong ditched the couple at Sadie's home, all with his daughter in the car. His own daughter said that every time we come over, he leaves to go follow Mom. I'm his spy. I did it to please him. He said Zachariah even cooked up a plan to try and get Sadie in trouble with the law. According to their daughter, on days when Sadie would visit Rosalio and the kids were with Zachariah, he would then drop the kids back off at Sadie's house and call the police, saying she left them there alone. Zachariah's defense attorney, Nicole Muller, told the jury in her opening statement that law enforcement ignored all other suspects. She said they meticulously searched Zachariah's property and there was no body, no human remains, no evidence, no murder weapon. Yet they wanted to go with the narrative that it must have been Mr. Anderson. The defense also argued that Rosalio had been seeing other women. He even had a date set with a woman named Nerida Macias for the night of May 17th, the last night he was heard from. The last text exchange he ever had was between Nerida and himself. He sent her a text with his address at 8:25 p.m. on May 17th. Narita was running 40 minutes behind, and when she arrived at 9:43 p.m., she texted Rosalio, "I'm here." At 9:57 p.m., she texted, "Are you okay?" She continued to text him, asking if he was okay, never getting a reply. A few days later, still worried about him, she checked his Facebook and saw a post saying if you have any information about Rosalio to contact the Kenosha Police Department, and that's what she did. Before the disappearance, things seemed to be looking up for Sadie. She met Rosalio's children and felt as though they were really falling for him, only to not hear from him the following day. That was something out of the ordinary given their daily communication. She decided to go to his house. When she pulled up, she noticed both of his vehicles were there and his screen patio door was open.
I kind of did a little self-talk in the car, and then I walked up to the screen door and noticed that, like I said, the glass door wasn't all the way closed. So I walked up. I believe I was on the phone with my friend at the time, and I called for him through the screen. The blinds were closed, so I couldn't exactly see inside directly, but I could tell that the screen was open, so I figured somebody would hear me if I would call through the screen. So I called his name a few times, and he didn't answer. So then I decided to go around into the main door to go to that door.
As she walked up to the door, she noticed something brownish on the wall.
My first thought was it looked like soy sauce, and I'm like, we didn't have, like, what? It looked like something was thrown on the wall there, and it wasn't there before, so it was kind of like, what is that? And then, like I said, I knocked on the door, I didn't get any answer, and then I tried to open the door, and it was locked, and then I went to go knock again, and when I went to go knock on the door, I saw like brown dots. He has a red door, a dark red door, and I could see like the brown dots all over the door. I got a very sick feeling.
She decided to walk back outside and go to the main door again.
I remember being very afraid. I remember I being on the phone with my friend and her saying, you know, just open the door. Just open the door and go in and see if he's there. And I said, okay. And I opened the screen and I pushed the blinds aside, and I immediately saw red blood, just a lot of brownish, reddish blood on the floor. And the apartment looked different. It was, it looked different. It looked like furniture had been moved and strategically placed somewhere else. It did not look the way that it looked the night before.
Kenosha Police Detective Lauren Onschitz recalled for the jury what she saw when walking into the crime scene using a pointer stick to point out various areas of interest.
So as soon as I walked in, I observed a substantial amount of blood right here.
And located on what?
So it would have been on the carpet, pooling of blood. So within that pooling of blood, there was an obvious void where there was no blood in the shape of a rectangle. So substantial amount of blood right here, and then a void, as if there was like a rug there that had been moved after someone was bleeding.
What else did you observe that caused you any concern?
I observed a significant amount of suspected blood on this table, on the couch, on the walls, on the ceiling, on this wall, on the cabinet, on the floor throughout here, on the back wall, and some areas in the kitchen here.
So, Detective, you sound like you're describing many locations in multiple rooms. Is that what you're intending to tell us?
There was suspected blood throughout.
Okay. And some of that's on the ground?
Yes.
And some of it on the ground is substantial?
Yes.
Okay, a lot?
Yes.
And some of it is on the walls?
Yes.
And it's not just one wall, it's several walls in the residence?
Yes.
And some of it's on the ceiling?
Yes.
And it's on the ceiling in several areas of the residence?
Yes.
He said there were suspected blood droplets on the couch, too, and toward the top of the couch cushion, there was a large amount of blood where one would put their head. Investigators were sure that Rosalio was dead due to the amount of blood found in the apartment. They testified that blood was found on the outer hallway, front door, tables, kitchen counter, curtains, ceiling fan, and dining chairs. Officer Jeffrey Van Wee was called to the scene. He's had training in bloodstain patterns. When asked what sort of object could cause that sort of blood spatter, he replied, "It's either blunt force trauma or gunshots." He also testified about items found in a burn pit on Zachariah's property. Those items included a bottle of bleach and burned clothes.
You've testified to a number of items you took from the burn pit. Do you recall that?
Yes.
I'm talking about Mequon. Some buttons, underwear, and sock, right?
Correct.
Okay. If you can you tell us, were those taken from the top area of the burn pit, or were they the kind of items that were only recovered in buckets at later layers?
They were recovered before we did the bucket system.
Okay. And so where would they be in terms of top to bottom of that burn pit?
The top, because they were visible to our eyes when we were looking at the fire pit.
After obtaining search warrants for Zachariah's computers, cell phones, and bank statements, investigators discovered that he had taken out $50,000 on May 15th, just days before Rosalia was declared a missing person. The forensic examiner, Sean Morton, testified that his primary job is to collect the digital evidence. He started with Zachariah's desktop computer. The first thing he found was a folder labeled Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. There were several pictures of Rosalio and his children in the folder, along with several screenshots from Facebook and other websites. There were 24 items in total. The 24 items were passed along to each juror. There was a screenshot of Rosalio's name and address, a screenshot from Find My Device on an Android phone. Then, a map for Find My Device, which led to the 3700 block of 25th Street, right next to Rosalio's house. A GPS device was downloaded into the folder with a picture of the tracker. There were also several video and audio recordings, about 3 dozen, which included 10 or more hours of recordings, and a recording of a man and a woman fighting over children. Hannah Judd, a special agent with the FBI, was called to the stand to testify over the phone records and tower pings. She said that between May 17th and May 18th, Zachariah's phone pinged in numerous locations, including in Mequon, where he lived, Cedarburg, Menominee Falls, Grafton, Belgium, and Port Washington. Mequon and Port Washington being the furthest in distance from each other, about 19 miles apart. On May 17th, his phone went unanswered between 7:30 p.m. to 11:19 p.m., even though he received text and phone calls. Some were from his girlfriend, Christine Remsburg, who was growing angry because they were supposed to have date night that evening, and she had made dinner. Zachariah didn't call or show.
At 10:31 p.m., or 10:31:09, do you text the defendant, whatever, going to bed?
Yes.
Okay. Fair to say you're not happy at that point?
Yes.
Okay. And is the first time you hear from the defendant a text from him that says, fell asleep, sorry, missed afternoon nap? Is that what he said?
Yes.
They then spoke on the phone at midnight for about 45 minutes. When Christine was first questioned by the police about the 17th, she told them that Zachariah was with her, but it wasn't true.
So originally you said you thought he was over there?
Yes, originally that's what I said, yes.
And did you tell him you thought he came over around 6 o'clock after you got off work? Is that what you told him originally?
Yeah.
Did you tell him, and then he never left the house? Did you tell him that's what you originally thought?
Yes.
And did you say he stayed until about 11 a.m.? Is that what you originally told him?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you also mention to him that there was another person who might be even a better source on whether he was at your house or not that night? Did you give him another name of somebody who might know even more or be more sure?
What do you mean by that?
Well, did you mention that your sister might be somebody who would even know more information or be more sure about it?
Yes.
Okay. And ultimately, did the officers come back to you?
Yes.
And re-question you about the 17th? In other words, what had happened 2 days earlier?
Yes.
Okay. And when they did that, did you decide that, in fact, he had not been at your house on the 17th?
Yes.
At 4 a.m. on the 17th, Zachariah's phone was searching to see what stores open up first. At around 8 a.m., Zachariah was seen on surveillance video at the Walmart in Saukville, Wisconsin. He had parked his dark-colored work van far in the back of the parking lot, even though it was raining that morning. He can then be seen walking straight to the cleaning aisle. He purchased Q-tips, Old Spice, 2 boxes of gallon-sized garbage bags, 2 boxes of latex gloves, 2 containers of Clorox wipes, and 2 cans of sardines. Some of the prosecution's greatest evidence against Zachariah came from his work van. Once the investigators seized the van to collect evidence, there were a few things that struck them as suspicious. Lisa Treffinger and Jillian Avila were part of the crime scene response team. At first glance, the two noticed that the van was dirty and unkempt. Jillian sprayed the van with luminol and noticed one spot, the size of a pinhead, that had a bit of glow to it. They used phenolphthalein to test for any signs of blood, all of which came back negative. In order to not compromise the pinpoint sample in the van, Jillian didn't spray that area, but instead swabbed it into evidence. That evidence was then sent to the DNA unit, and the tiny speck matched the DNA of Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. Zachariah and Sadie's daughter, whom we will call O, was called to the witness stand on day 11 of the trial. Her real name was not used, and she was not shown on camera due to her being a minor. She is now 14 years old. Her testimony was one that was brave, bold, and some might say, bruising to the defense. Not only did she testify that her dad had enlisted her as a spy, but she said he also made her accompany him as he broke into Rosalio's car, watched the couple, and stole his car registration. She had also been inside the van prior to Rosalio's disappearance that very same weekend.
On that weekend of the 16th and 17th, did you have an opportunity to see how the rug was in the back of this van?
Yes.
Carpeting. Okay. So I'm going to show you a picture. And this is picture what?
States Exhibit 1-260.
So this is Exhibit 1-260. Do you notice that there's something cut out in the van in this picture?
Yes.
And was that area cut out when you and your little brothers went to the tree farm on the weekend of May 16th and May 17th of 2020?
No.
I'm going to show you another picture. When you were in this van on the weekend of May 16th and May 17th, what, if any, smell of bleach did you smell in that van?
No, and those stains were not there either.
So you see some stains on this picture, and again, this is Exhibit
1257.
So those stains were not on the van?
No.
O was asked multiple questions about her dad's home. She went into detail about the rows of marijuana all over the house, as well as magic mushrooms that were kept in the fridge. She testified with quite a depth of knowledge, saying she knew he had sold it. During cross, Zachariah's attorney, Nicole Muller, asked her about the weekend of the 16th, where she had gone to the tree farm with her dad and brothers. She focused on O's testimony that the rug had been cut out then.
So, your testimony earlier was that when you were in the van, you were sitting in the front seat, and the boys were sitting in the back seat of the van, and that there were no seats in the middle.
Correct.
And could you see that space in between perfectly without obstruction?
Yeah.
There was nothing. So in that...
There was obviously my own dad's junk in his own car, because that's pretty normal. But, I mean, other than the normal stuff that was in the car already, No, there were no middle seats.
And there was nothing else on the carpet other than some trash and...
Maybe some clothes or something. I don't know. Just typical stuff.
Typical man stuff in a van.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Mueller stood up and pointed to a photo of the inside of the van as she continued to ask O what she saw, including a chainsaw.
If the back seats were in, they would be locked in right here. Correct?
Yeah.
So if the seats are there, you're not necessarily going to be able to see directly underneath.
No, there was carpet underneath there.
You could see completely underneath.
I could see completely underneath the seats. That seat was not like that.
Okay. And you're saying that there was nothing in this area?
No.
Just open?
I mean, besides what my dad's stuff was in his car, no. There was nothing out of the ordinary.
So where was the chainsaw?
In the trunk.
Where in the trunk? The back seats are back there.
No. The trunk cuts off right behind those seats.
So there's enough space with the back seats.
The back seat, stops right where you're pointing.
Here. So you're saying the chainsaw was right here?
Correct.
When did you see the chainsaw? And I'm good with that exhibit. Thank you. Thank you.
When we had gone to the tree farm, I noticed that my uncle, grandpa, and dad were exchanging or fixing his, so that we had brought it there to fix the chainsaw. At the same time, my dad was also cutting down trees in his yard, so...
As Mueller continued to cross-examine her, it was clear that O was beginning to get frustrated. During a break, it was reported online that Zachariah had taken 2 fingers and clamped them over his mouth as if to silence his daughter as she testified on the stand. When this was brought up to the judge, the defense immediately rebutted, accusing Sadie of also making hand gestures and using sign language to her daughter from the galley. After the prosecution and defense went back and forth about what gestures were used, Sadie was then put back on the witness stand while some of Zachariah's family members were escorted out of the courtroom. They were accused of texting the defense during the trial. Sadie told the court that she does know American Sign Language and she has a minor in deaf communications, which she denied using sign language while her daughter was testifying, saying that maybe she kind of lifted her hands just as an unconscious motherly reaction when O was being a little sassy on the stand. No further rulings were made, and after the break, O was back on the stand, continuing to be questioned by the defense. During questioning, she referenced having tracked her mom's location one day from her dad's computer.
And was that the only time you went on your dad's computer?
Yes.
And when you went on his computer, did you have to put in a password?
No, like I said, he had already logged into the computer and it was all set up. He just basically told me to watch where she was going.
Okay. Did you take any screenshots when you were doing that?
No, actually, I didn't have a phone like that.
Oh, so
I didn't have the ability to do that.
So were you on a phone or were you on the computer?
I was on my dad's desktop, but I did not have a phone to screenshot anything or screenshot anything on that computer.
Was it a desktop or a laptop, if you remember?
A desktop.
She was also questioned about telling police officers that she had seen a gun with her dad while with him in California.
What kind of gun was it?
Do you know?
I'm not aware of guns like that. I don't handle guns like that.
You said guns like that. What do you mean?
Meaning, I don't know. Meaning, I'm not familiar with guns like that, but I can tell you there was one.
What color was it?
Black.
Was it long, short? Can you describe with your hands?
It was short. It wasn't. It was probably a pistol of some sort. I'm not sure.
Okay, where did you see it?
It was at the Mequon house.
So you say that this unregistered gun is in California to law enforcement. Up until today, did you ever say anything about this gun being in Wisconsin?
When I had talked about this gun, there were other traumatic events going on in my life. So this isn't.
You don't have to defend your answer.
I'm trying not to defend it. It's what happened. It's legitimately what happened. Like, there were other things going on, and this isn't something that's related even to this situation.
But if you
it's
listen,
not.
I'm not. Don't take this as a scolding. I'm saying, listen carefully to the question and just try to answer just the question. And if there's more to be gone into, the lawyers will usually cover it.
I was threatened with that gun, for your information.
Judge, I'm going to ask that be struck. That wasn't my. That wasn't my.
No.
Repeat your question.
It will come as no surprise to you that you're going to go into the library for a moment.
The judge sent the jury out and then prohibited both sides from arguing about the gun in their closings. The following day, Detective Vicente Correa was brought to the stand. He checked Zachariah's purchases and helped with the searches. He found that Zachariah had purchased 2 GPS tracker devices and a double D row handle. He also reviewed audio calls, recordings, and texts. He said on May 13th, there was an audio recording of GPS voice directions from Mequon, where Zachariah lived, to Kenosha, where Rosalio lived. He searched a property at 683 Highland Road, where Zachariah had been hired to do rehab work. Detective Correa testified about what he recovered, including buttons to Levi jeans, Fruit of the Loom underwear, and what he believed was a camera inside a white Hanes sock in the fire pit. He said steel toes and shoelaces were also recovered from the first layer of the fire pit. In addition to that, there was a knife sheath found with red staining by the kitchen table. And he said the Walmart receipt was also found in the dashboard of Zachariah's car. Marquand Washington, Zachariah's cellmate while in jail, also testified for the prosecution.
Was there a time when you were observing the defendant when it appeared to you he was having a nightmare?
Yes.
And what do you remember about that incident?
I remember I was laying there the night before. I told him about it the next day, but I was laying there and I was reading my book and I heard him shout in his sleep before he woke himself up.
And what did he shout that you heard?
He said, "Die, die, die, motherfucker."
And you're quoting as best you remember?
Yes.
All right. And so did you ever have a discussion with the defendant about this nightmare that you heard him have, or these words he said?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And so if you know about how long after that happened, did you bring it up to him?
I brought it up to him the next day.
Okay. And what did you say to him about it?
I pretty much told him, I asked him about the situation about that he was locked up about, and I told him that he was talking in his sleep or yelling about some stuff in his sleep, and he was like, "What did I say?" And I pretty much told him what he said, and he was like, "Yeah, are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you said it." So I asked him a question. I'm like, "Did you do it?" Like, what, you know what I'm saying? "I think you did it." And we went from there.
And so what did the defendant respond when you said, "I think you did it," based on the nightmare? What did he say?
I told him to look me in my eyes and tell me that you didn't do it. And he jumped down from the bed and he looked me in my eyes and he said, "I did it." He said, "That's the reason I have the nightmares. I'm unable to sleep at night because I think about it all the time."
He said he asked Zachariah how he did it.
So when you asked the defendant, how did he do it? What was said next? What did the defendant tell you?
Well, he spoke indirectly. Starting off, he wasn't pretty much trying to say everything that he did. I felt like he was held back, but he said that, well, if you gotta know a person, you gotta learn a person. You gotta be able to know, where they live, how they move when they leave, what they drive. And then he told me, one way of knowing when a person is going to be a certain area is GPS tracking. And he told me Amazon sold GPS tracking that you can put on people's car.
He was also asked about Zachariah's nickname in jail.
A lot of times people would say Houdini or Zach Houdini or, just telling me about who my cellie was.
When the defendant was called Houdini by individuals, how did the defendant react?
He never denied it. He just would laugh it off or, just go on about his day.
And did the defendant talk about why people were calling him Houdini and describe, what that was about to you?
Yes, he said they called him Houdini because of his case, basically because he made a body disappear, they say, and everybody called him Houdini because of it.
During closings, prosecutor Michael Gravely said it had been 1,039 days since Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. was last heard from.
Rosalio loved his kids. He loved his mom, who he was in communication with as a guy almost 40 or around 40 every day. Every day he was in communication with his mom. And that suddenly ended at just around 10 p.m. on May 17th.
He said Zachariah had no limits and was an obsessed planner. One who went to Rosalio's home around 10 p.m. on May 17th, and when that front door first opened, attacked him with a blunt force object. He told the jury that the blunt force trauma blows caused the blood to fly. A minimum of 6 blows based on the blood spatter. He said arterial spray was in the house, which suggests that a knife was also used during the attack. He said Zachariah does all of this and then gets home by 11:19 p.m. The next day, he found a store, cleaned things up, had a fire at his job site, and burned his clothes and the steel-toed boots in the rain. He asked the jury why Zachariah would misdirect the police investigation by saying he was at his girlfriend's house on the night of May 17th when his girlfriend testified that he wasn't there. Defense attorney Keur told the jury that prosecutors did not prove their case. He said law enforcement had blinders on and only looked at one man. He told the jury that the stalking needed to cause serious emotional distress, not just annoyance. Adding that if the prosecution had a strong enough case, why did they need to bring in a jailhouse snitch?
Mr. Gravely thinks that because somebody is not doing anything on their phone between 7:42 and 11:19 makes somebody guilty. God forbid you turn your phone off, you're recharging it, you put it on silent, or you take a nap. Don't do those things because you'll look guilty.
He said the jury shouldn't rely on possibilities or guesswork. And he said the tragedy is that the real killer has not yet been caught. If, in fact, Rosalio is dead. He said there is no evidence he went to Kenosha, only that he went off the grid. Zachariah Anderson is not guilty. On March 22, 2023, Rosalio's family and friends filled the courtroom decked out in Chicago Cubs gear, Rosalio's favorite team. The jury of 7 women and 5 men reached their verdict after 10 hours of deliberation. They found Zachariah Anderson guilty on all charges. Guilty of stalking Sadie Beecham. Guilty of stalking Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. Guilty of intentional homicide and guilty of hiding a corpse. An audible gasp was heard from the audience. Zachariah had no reaction at all. Judge Schroeder thanked the jury, saying that our entire freedom in this country is dependent on people like you, adding that it's a guarantee of freedom against an oppressive government that other countries don't have. And it's because of people like you that it's kept strong and handed down to our children and the generation which follow us. So there's no way I could adequately express the gratitude that we have for you folks. Zachariah's sentencing was held on May 16th, 2023. Rosalio's many friends and family members took the stand to talk about their loss. He had 2 children, a sister, step-siblings, and many cousins. His son asked the judge to give Zachariah the maximum.
After thinking about it, I started to find ways to blame myself. What if I spent the night there that night? Would it have changed that monster's mind? I began to feel hatred towards this disgusting, jealous man. And I want nothing more than to have the name Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. to be stuck in his mind and for my dad to haunt him forever. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of my dad, about all the good memories we shared on and off the baseball field, all the laughter and all the serious stuff, the life lessons he taught me, the good work ethic he had, and showed me that every day anything was possible. He'd always tell me and my sister that all he was trying to do was make a better life for us and leave us something when he died. After he said that, my sister would say, "No, Dad, I don't want you to die." And he would respond with, "We all have to someday." We just never thought that someday would come so soon. There's a song that I really like, and it says, "It's a shame when people ain't around to see the smiles that they nurture and the laughter that they breathe." The fact that my dad won't ever be able to see us grow old and meet his grandchildren, and to have that taken away by one jealous man, is nothing short of a shame. With that said, I believe Zachariah Anderson should be sentenced to the maximum penalty that you can give him. It would make me feel better to know that such a monster can never be free.
Sadie Beecham also spoke.
Life will never be the same for any of us, and I never would have imagined this would have been my life. I've endured some tough losses, deaths of both my parents and a beloved Grams, but no one could have prepared me for this kind of loss. Loss of dignity and self-esteem in a relationship that was manipulative and emotionally abusive, then coming to terms with having to grieve the loss of that relationship, losing the trust and respect of my one and only daughter, my baby girl, the one who made me a mom, due to the irresponsible, inconsiderate, and irreversible actions of her father to exploit her mother and create a narrative of shame to an impressionable 12-year-old girl. Loss of feeling safe in the safety of our children and the feelings of helplessness and fear with you around. Loss of a budding relationship and a friend who innocently and ultimately suffered the greatest loss, his life.
Zachariah and Sadie's daughter also spoke to the court, crying about how she never thought this was the way the story would end with her, her mother, and her father. She cried as she wondered out loud if her father ever loved her or if she was just a pawn. After all the emotional testimony, Zachariah spoke. He referenced taking accountability for a prior arrest, having been busted for marijuana in the car.
Was I caught with marijuana in my car? Yeah. Yeah, I was. Should I have? No. I'd bend the rules there, broke them. Broke the rules. And when they said, "Hey, this is a problem," I said, "Well, I did knowingly, and I'll be held accountable for it." That's it. And if I killed somebody, whatever that situation was, I can tell you in my own heart it wouldn't be intentional. If I didn't at all, a guy I never met, I don't really know what this is, but I didn't do it. I'm innocent, Judge. Not guilty. I'm innocent.
Judge Schroeder then read out his sentence.
On the first count of the information, it is the sentence of the court that your custody be committed to the Department of Corrections for a period of 2 years, followed by a 2-year period of extended supervision. On the second count, for an identical sentence to be served consecutively. On the fourth count of the information, hiding a corpse, for a period of 6 years of initial confinement, followed by 5 years of extended supervision, to be served consecutively to counts 1 and 2. And on the third count of the information, it is the sentence of the court that your custody be committed to the Department of Corrections for confinement in the Wisconsin State Prisons for the remainder of your life.
He will be eligible for extended supervision after 40 years. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to hear what you think about this case. Let us know by joining the conversation on Instagram at Court Junkie, by tweeting us at CourtJunkiePod, or by emailing us at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Katherine Acevedo. If you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads, hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, or get access to our weekly newsletter regarding fascinating court cases, check out our Patreon options at courtjunkie.com/support. Also, be sure to check out our sister podcast, Civil, which covers interesting civil cases and trials. You can subscribe by searching for Civil on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Jillian is currently out on maternity leave, but will be returning mid-June. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.